from BigCountryPreps.com. I'm Evan Wren, and this is the Capital Farm Credit Wednesday night podcast, our weekly look at the area athletic scene, what happened last week, and what's going on this week. I'm here with my partner, Dan Youngblood, via Zoom. And tonight, Dan, we've got Stephenville head football coach Sterling Doty as our guest.
Yeah, and I think you'd be hard pressed to find any coach in the Big Country who's done a better job with his team than has Coach Doty with the Yellow Jackets this year. They enter the third round of the playoffs, a huge matchup this week with Argyle, undefeated at 12-0, have just been dominant all year long. Have kind of that patented Stephenville offense. They're putting up lots of yards, lots of points, and then this year, the thing I think that's made that team really special is they are playing some serious defense, and it's been a lot of fun to watch. This Stephenville team has been a lot of fun to watch.
I do not. Now, I'm not going to say this is the best Stephenville team that I've seen. I'm not going to say that, but I don't recall them playing better defense. I really do not recall a Stephenville team playing better defense than this one. They've had a ton of great offenses, but they're playing lights out defensively this year.
Yeah, I mean, this is the best Stephenville defense I've ever seen. I think I can say that with confidence. And offensively, I mean, if there is any sort of gap between this and those in the past, it's pretty small in my opinion. This offense is really been good as well. This has just been a really fun team, like I said, to watch all year long because they've been so consistent on both sides of the football. And on the rare occasions they have been tested, they've really answered that well. I thought we saw that a little bit last week with Paris, where it was kind of a low scoring slugfest there for a little while, and they were able to pull away, get that 2-score lead and close that one out. So this team, I think, is tough-minded. It's very talented. I've said all year long, I think it's the best team in that region. It'll get a chance to prove that. And like I said, this week they got Argyle, who's always tough. But I like this team. I like its chances of really making a deep run and perhaps getting back to Arlington.
So do I, and you can't have a more battle-tested ball club than this one with the schedule they played and the district that they're in. If they make it through, there's no guarantee of making it through this region for anybody, but if they make it through, they are definitely going to be mentally and physically ready for whatever comes after this.
Yeah, no question. I mean, that schedule they played is brutal in that district where you talk about playing La Vega and Midlothian Heritage, both of which they handled pretty well. Both one beat Heritage by a couple of scores and really dominated La Vega, which I thought was very impressive. So, like you said, they've been battle tested. They've answered every test so far. They've passed them all, and it's gonna be exciting to see if they can continue this a few more weeks, because I think they have that potential. But like we talked about, this Argyle team is gonna be tough, and then if you get past them, you're gonna have another tough game next week. So it's not gonna get any easier for the Yellow Jackets from here on out. But at the same time, I'm not sure they're gonna see a whole lot from this point forward that they weren't really tested with in district. So it's going to be fun to see how they can kind of navigate the rest of this region if they're able to.
Before we jump into this week's show, we need to thank our primary sponsor, Capital Farm Credit, with offices all over Texas, including Stamford and Abilene. Buy your own slice of Texas with Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better. And with that, Dan, let's jump into this week's playoff pairings. We're going to be in the regional finals at the 6-man level, regional semifinals at the 11-man classifications. We'll start off at the Class 1A level, 6-man football. We've got Strawn at 12-0, squaring off against Gordon in a regional final. That's going to be 6 p.m. Friday at Breckenridge. Both clubs, of course, winning their semifinals. Strawn over Throckmorton, 61-8, and Gordon over Goldberg, 82-37. This is a rematch, Dan, this regional final.
Yeah, this is a rematch of a district matchup that Strawn won comfortably, but Gordon did put up 38 points on Strawn, which is one of the highest totals that Strawn's allowed this year. So Gordon has shown the ability to score a little bit. They're going to have to find a way to slow down Strawn's offense if they're going to have a chance to win this one, and that's really the challenge. No one has really done that this year. That Strawn offense is very, very good as it is typically. But this is an interesting one. Anytime you get a rivalry of this caliber in this type of game in a region final, it's pretty cool. So this will be one that a lot of people will be paying attention to, and there'll be a lot of eyes on this one. So this is a big matchup for the Big Country and really a big matchup for the state at the 6-man level.
All right. On the subject of rematches, Jayton is going to get a rematch with Motley County, top-ranked Motley County at the Division II level. This is going to be another regional final. Jayton at 11-1 facing Motley County 12-0. That is 6 p.m. Friday in Idalou, and Jayton is playing really well. Good physical football team, but Motley County is a tall order.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, this is a rematch of a district matchup where Motley County did get the better of Jayton for the Jaybirds. Only lost the season, but one thing I think is going to be interesting is just the contrasting styles here. You've got a Jayton team that, like you said, is very physical, does like to play more of a tight game, doesn't mind playing smash mouth football. And we saw that last week where they beat Lorraine 34-14, which, as six man goes, is a pretty low scoring football game. So they have the ability to win that type of game. And I think if they had their preference, they'd probably like to get Motley County into more of a possession game. That's very difficult to do, and that's something they weren't able to do in the district matchup. We'll see if they can in this one. If they can, I think they've got a shot, but it is, like you said, a tall order. This Motley County is ranked number 1 and is undefeated for a reason. But this Jayton team's had a great season. Their only loss is to that Motley County team. So that they'll want to redeem, want to avenge that loss. And this is a team with talent to do it. So we'll see if they can, but it will be a very tough matchup.
They find a way to move the chains and retain possession of that football. They've got a shot. That's going to be the big key for Jayton, is being able to run the football, do what they do, and hang on to the ball and limit possessions. And they give themselves a shot if they can do that.
Agreed.
All right, now we're going to jump up to Region 4, Division 1, 1A. We've got May, and this is a big matchup, Dan. We've got May at 12-0 against Water Valley at 12-0 for a regional championship.
Yeah, a huge matchup. I think this is the one that a lot of folks have been looking forward to for a long time. A lot of people think that this May team is a favorite to win a state championship, but if they're going to do it, this is the type of game you're going to have to find a way to win. And Water Valley, as you mentioned, at 12-0 is very, very good as well. So this is a huge 6-man football game, and it's one that I'm excited about just because this May team, the expectations are so high for this bunch, and they've had so much success in recent years. I'll be interested to see if they can survive this one and give themselves a chance to win a state championship.
Region 2, 1A, Division 1. We've got the Westbrook Wildcats are still alive. We've been warning people about them, that they were a lot better than that record. Westbrook at 8-4 will be squaring off with Sterling City for the regional championship. And, if you look at the computer rankings, if you look at the computer schedule rankings, guess who has the toughest schedule in Texas?
I'm sure it's Westbrook.
It is Westbrook. Westbrook played the toughest schedule of every 6-man football team in Texas this year. So you can totally discount that record.
And you look at those 4 losses, and they played basically each of those teams they lost to, they gave those teams one of their toughest games all year long. So this Westbrook team is very, very good. And you saw that last week when they won by 48 over a really good Rankin team. So Sterling City is a very good football team at 10-2, but this Westbrook squad, I mean, I don't put anything past them at this point. This is a bunch that, again, had really high expectations coming into the year. They lost a few games early in non-district to teams that were, excellent, top 10 type teams. And people kind of probably got lulled to sleep a little bit, but do not sleep on this Westbrook team. It is very, very good, and they could very well be playing this time next week.
All right, now we're going to jump up to Class 2A. This is going to be Region 2 in Division 2. 2 of our ball clubs advanced. Santo defeating Roscoe, who is also from our coverage area, 33-12, and you were on hand for that one, Dan. And then Albany over Olney, that was to be expected, 32-10. Santo will face Windhorst this week. Santo will face Windhorst in the regional semifinals, 1 p.m. Friday in Graham. Albany will take on Munster in that is a humongous regional semifinal right there, 2 p.m. Friday at Springtown. With Santo, everybody and their dog are going to pick Windhorst to beat Santo. But you know what? There's one thing about Santo and the way they play, and you've seen them now. If they execute that offense and play keep away all night, they're going to give themselves an opportunity. They're going to give themselves an opportunity against Windhorst if they can execute and not turn the ball over.
Yeah. And the thing that's interesting too is Windhorst is coming off a surprisingly close game against a rival in Archer City that I don't think a lot of people expected to be as tight as it was, where they gave up a lot of points. They gave up 40 plus points in that game. And this Santo team has the type of offense that, like you said, if you can't get them off the field, they can possess a ball for basically a quarter. If you don't watch out, that's what they did against Roscoe is they just in the second half, they just possessed the ball pretty much the entire time. They recovered a pooch kick, and it gave them 2 straight possessions where they ate up an entire quarter basically. And they have the ability to do that. They can go 3, 4, 5 yards a carry all the way down the field. And by the time you look up, they're scoring and you have no time to answer. So this will definitely be a style type game. If Santo can do what it does well, I think it will be a close game into the fourth quarter. And they're a team that's built to win in those situations. Windhorst is obviously a very good football team. They're 11-1 as well for a reason, with that only loss to Munster in district. But this Santo team, I think there are a lot of people that were not terribly surprised to see them make it to this point. And I think a big part of the reason why is what they're doing, both offensively and defensively, to style wise, that allows them to stay in these games. So I'm excited to see if they can win this one.
Their offense becomes a form of defense when they execute it. It is a
Definitely.
form of defense. So
yeah. And then you mentioned the Albany Munster game. I mean, you're talking about two teams that are undefeated. These are two teams I think both of us and basically everyone around the state expected to be in this situation. Two top 5, top 3 type teams in Class 2A Division II. Both have just been dominant all year long. One thing I think is interesting, I think will actually be a good thing for Albany, is they did get tested by only a little bit last week. They were only up, I think, 12-10 right there around halftime, and then they were able to shut them out in the second half and pull away. But I think they kind of needed that type of test. They got a little bit of a test against Santo, and I thought they needed that against Olney, but they've proven now that they have that ability, that when they are challenged, that they are able to separate a little bit. And we're really high on this Albany team, but this is going to be a tough matchup.
Yeah, and this is one of those matchups, Dan. You could see it coming. You could see it coming a month ago. You knew it was going to happen, and here we are. And I was hoping somewhere along the way that somebody was going to step up and really give Albany a go, because they needed that. They desperately needed that. And we saw a little bit of it from Olney. We saw a little bit of it from Santo. We're just gonna have to wait and see. Because Munster and Albany, that's gonna be a close ball game decided in the second half. And you can make the same argument for Munster that the vast majority of the games were blowouts as well. So whoever responds to that pressure in the second half is going to win that ball game.
And one thing that's interesting is you've got in this region, I mean, you could have a district rematch, whether it's Santo and Albany or whether it's Windhorst and Munster. You could potentially have a district rematch in the region final, or it could go the other way too. But it's kind of interesting that those two districts have done as well as they have, and I think that's kind of the expectation.
All right, and with that, it's time to jump up to Division I, Class 2A. This is Region 1 action. We've got 3 teams still alive in the regional semifinals. We'll start with Cisco at 10-2, facing a very good New Deal team at 11-1. That's 2 p.m. Friday in Colorado City at beautiful Wolf Stadium. And we've got Holly at 12-0 against Coleman, 11-0, 6 p.m. Friday at Wiley. And that is an enormous matchup that we knew was going to happen, Dan. We'll start with this Cisco team against New Deal. I know that Coleman had their way with Cisco a few weeks ago, but I'm telling you right now, I'm not discounting Cisco at this point. You cannot. This is going to be a good matchup between them and New Deal. Those are 2 very physical, run-oriented football teams. That's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah. And at this time of year is generally when Cisco really turns up the heat, and they've done that so far. They got off to the really fast start against Haskell, kind of put that game away really early. And then they follow that with a 69-21 win over Panhandle last week. And that's a quality Panhandle team. So Cisco is playing very well. This will be a big test for them, as Forsan learned last week in what was a really good competitive game that you were at, where New Deal beat Forsan 28-24. So this is a very good New Deal team, as indicated by that 11-1 record. But I think that you and I both know that the Cisco program it always fields a very quality team this time of year as well. And I expect Cisco to put up quite a fight, and I would not be at all surprised to see them playing in the region championship game next week.
No, nor would I. They're playing really well. They had a very easy time with Panhandle, a good Panhandle team, 69-21 last week. And this New Deal team is a ball club that's going to line up and try to pound you. They might throw the football 5 or 10 times a game and just line up and try to pound you. It's going to go both ways. It's going to be a quick game with very limited possessions, and it is probably going to come down to a turnover or a penalty or just a key special teams play, something like that. This will be a great ball game.
Yeah, and we just narrowly missed having an all big country region semifinal. Forsan, like we said, in a back and forth game, lost by 4 in that one, so that it was almost a Cisco Forsan matchup, and then we have the big one that you and I have been talking about for weeks now with Holly and Coleman, both undefeated, both outstanding defensive football teams that can also score. I mean, these are two really, really good football teams, and I'm excited to see it. I think that these are both teams have really dominated all year long, and we'll just kind of have to see how it goes. Just a second. Hey, baby, I'm busy.
You're done. No. You'll come in the living room. You're done.
Yes. When I'm done, I'm moving. Okay, I will come in there when I'm done. I need to redo that.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Oh yeah. Ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, and what's interesting is we were very close to having an all big country region semifinals, like you said that forcing. Just a second, I'm gonna start that over. Yeah, what's interesting about this region is we were really, really close to having 4 of our teams in the region semifinals. Like I mentioned, that Forsan dropped a back and forth game in that 28-24 game, so we almost had a Cisco Forsan matchup, which would have been a lot of fun. But the Cisco New Deal matchup will be a good one as well. And then on the other side, you've got just a mammoth game, one we've been talking about for weeks now, with 12-0 Holly against 11-0 Coleman, two teams that have really been dominant all year long, particularly on the defensive side of the football. I'm really excited about this one. This is going to be a very, very fun football game between two very physical, very good defensive football teams. I think it's going to be a pretty low scoring affair because it's going to be tough to move the ball and score on both of these units. But this is one of those that's I think is one of the games of the year, in my opinion.
A quick note on that Forsan team before I talk about Holly and Coleman. Forsan finished at 10-2, and both of their losses were to top 10 teams by a combined total of 7 points.
Yeah.
That was a quality Forsan ball club. They did a great job this year, and they just get knocked out in the area around it. It's unfortunate that we had to say goodbye to them, but that's a team that we will remember. They played very well, and they could have gone farther. It's just the way it is. It's they just ran into a great New Deal team. They had their chances. They had their chances to beat Holly earlier in the year as well. That was a fun ball club to watch, and congratulations to Forsan for a great season. Moving on to Holly and Coleman. Yes, that indeed is one of those games that we knew was going to take place. We've been talking about it for weeks. Two of the best offenses in Class 2A that we had in the area this year. I still say Coleman is the most athletic defense of any of the small schools I've seen this year. It's an incredibly quick, hard-hitting defense. And that's just the most athletic defense that I've seen. However, there's a counterbalance to that. Holly has got the best special teams, all around special teams of any of the small schools that I've seen this year. And they hurt you consistently with special teams. They consistently get themselves good field position off of punt returns, off of kickoff returns. It's something that's consistent. They've got a good field goal unit. That could be the difference in the ball game. If they're close, special teams could win it for Holly.
Yeah,
as well as and Coleman has that X factor, that their quickness on defense, which could be the difference. It's going to be an interesting matchup.
Yeah, and Coleman's got a solid field goal kicker as well. So I think there are lots of things about this matchup that I think are really, really interesting. And I think the biggest point to be made about both, these are two very complete football teams. They run the ball well. They're strong offensively. Defensively, they've given up very, very little this year. And then they both play good special teams. But I would agree that Holly's special teams unit is one of the best that we've seen in the big country in a very long time. But their return teams are consistent weapons for that team. They score a lot of touchdowns on returns. So that could be a big factor. And I think that Holly's going to have to get some of those plays on special teams just because Coleman is such a difficult team to move the ball on. I think they're going to have to get some of those special teams plays. I think they're going to have to maybe hit a couple of big pass plays. I think Anson showed that there is some availability there in the pass game. But what makes Coleman so tough is they are so good against the run. They really do just pound you and they beat you up. And over the course of this game, I mean, they get running backs not feeling real excited about running into that line again. I mean, they're that physical, that good. So this is going to be a fun matchup because Holly does a lot of the same things. So this is one of those where you got two, I think, elite teams at that classification matching up with each other.
Absolutely. Legit top 10 teams. It's I wouldn't be surprised to see either one of those teams in Arlington. I wouldn't be surprised to see. I still say Cisco has a shot. I still do. Now
Yeah.
we're going to move up. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I
I
interrupted.
was saying, yeah, whoever wins this game is going to have to deal with whether it's Cisco or New Deal, a really good team as well. So you're not getting to the state semifinals with this win, but this does give you that opportunity.
Absolutely. We're going to jump up to Class 3A Division 2. We're going to be in Region 2, where we had to say goodbye to the Eastland Mavericks last week. Bells over Eastland 67-37, but the Dublin Lions advanced with a 41-35 win over Palmer. Dublin at 9-3 will take on Gunter, a monstrous ball club, 12-0, 2 p.m. Friday at Bedford's Pennington Field in the regional semis. The Bells score really doesn't surprise me. Eastland struggled defensively against wing T, slot T type teams this year. I expected a shootout with Eastland coming up a little short. That's not quite the point spread that I expected. I thought Eastland would be maybe a little closer, but some teams just struggle against the slot T or wing T. This year, Eastland was one of them.
Yeah. And then I think one of the big stories, and yes, you're right, Dublin facing off with a Gunter team. This is a very, very tall order. We've talked all year long about our teams in this classification, 3A Division 2, that it was going to be very difficult for these teams to get past probably this round, because once you get to this round, you are playing a top 5, top 3 type team. And that is the case for Dublin and with this Gunter team. Gunter is a state title threat, if not favorite. So whatever happens this week, in my opinion, is gravy. But I think the story here is for this Dublin ball club is the fact that they're here. This is the first time in that program's history, more than a century of playing football, that they're in the third round of the playoffs. And they've done it with a couple of really hard fought wins over Callisburg in the bi-district round, Palmer last week. This is this is going to be one of those Dublin teams that goes down in history as kind of, the team at this point. And it's really cool to see. This has been a very, I think, mentally tough team and a very good offensive team that's been able to get into some of those shootouts and win them. And it's been really cool to see, particularly in Coach Hardcastle's first year. They're one of the stories of the year in the big country, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Regardless of what the outcome is against Gunter, this is going to be one of those Dublin teams. It's going to be right up there. They're going to point to, and that might be the standard bearer, might be the torch bearer for everybody to follow them. It's been a great year. Greg Hardcastle has done a magnificent job in really just kind of carrying on the momentum that was started by Bob Servetto, and it's good to see. Considering what we saw from Dublin, say 15 years ago, it's really a beautiful thing to see this program advancing the way it has. Yeah,
for sure. And what's really cool about this too is you're seeing that this is something that is sustainable over time and through ups and downs, because they had a dip last year with a young group. Yes. And within 1 year, they're right back there, achieving heights that have never been achieved in that program before. So that part's really awesome, in my opinion, to see some of these young kids that kind of took their lumps last year now getting an opportunity to play at Gunter in the third round. It's a really cool story.
We're going to remain in Class 3A Division 2. We're going to skip regions. We're going to go over to Region 1. And we got another ball club that's still alive, and yet another ball club that's got a tall order on the menu this week. We've got the Brady Bulldogs still alive at 8-3 in the regional semis. They're going to be squaring off with Lubbock Roosevelt, a 12-0 Lubbock Roosevelt team. That's 7 p.m. Friday at Sweetwater's Mustang Bowl. Lubbock Roosevelt is an outstanding defensive football team and a run-oriented, option-type football team. Offensively, they very seldom throw the football. It is very common, if you play Roosevelt, to see them throw the football maybe 2 or 3 times, if that. It's ground and pound, and that's the challenge for Brady this week, is to not only stop Roosevelt, but get the football away from them.
Yeah,
just to possess the ball and give themselves an opportunity to score. It's not easy.
No, and stylistically, they faced a similar team last week in Stanton. That's a wing T team that runs that wing T really well. But this Lubbock Roosevelt team's a whole different animal, out of the same district. But this Roosevelt team, I kind of view them the same way I do Gunter, where if you're going to be heavy underdogs here, and that's okay. I think Brady's in a very similar situation to Dublin, in my opinion. Just getting to the region semifinals is a big deal, is a huge story. And it's really cool the way that they've done it last week. A 21-13 come from behind win over Stanton, and that was a Stanton team that had pulled off one of the biggest upsets in the state in maybe years in week one or in the bi-district round with the win over Childress, and Brady was able to really shut down their offense and get just enough offense late in that game to win it by 8 points. But this Brady team is I view them very similarly to the way I do Dublin. They've been a program that's been building, and it was a big year and a big step forward for them. Now 8-3 in the region semifinals for the first time since 2009. I think Coach Easterwood's got that program back where he wants it, and they're kind of the same way. This is kind of a standard bearer type team that kind of is setting the tone for the future of the program, and it's pretty cool to see as well.
And they overcame a mid-season slump. They got beat up by Dublin in our game of the week. Did not look good that night. Made a lot of mistakes. Had some problems with the center quarterback exchanges. A lot of fumbles. Did not look good. You know what? They've really turned it around, and they came away with a road win at Ballinger early in the district season, which was, that was like the turning point right there. They gained some confidence. They won at Ballinger, which was a tough place to play against a good team. As it turned out, a very good team from Ballinger. That really turned things around for them at that point. They really gained some momentum and have played well since then.
Yeah, and I was about to make the exact same point. I think that Ballinger win was the turning point. I think that got them going back in a positive direction, and really since then they haven't looked back. I think that says a lot about that coaching staff. It says a lot about those players, because this is a group of players that hadn't necessarily experienced just a ton of success before this year, but they've kind of just stuck to the process and were able to build something this year, and we're able to rebound from a little swoon there, and they're playing at a very high level. It's just unfortunately they're running into a buzzsaw this round, but I'm excited to see kind of what they can do, and if they can slow them down a little bit. There will not be many passes thrown in this game because Brady's not a team that throws a lot as well. So this will be a relatively briskly played game. You'll see a whole lot of running, and we'll see if Brady's able to move the ball a little bit and able to slow that Roosevelt run game. But it, like you said, a tall order there.
All right, now we're going to jump up to Class 3A Division I. We're going to stay in Region 1, where a ball game, we're talking about all these games that we knew were coming. And this is another one. Brock, 12-0 against Jim Ned, 12-0, 2 p.m. Friday at Brownwood's Gordon Woods Stadium. And this is going to be a regional semi, of course. We knew it was coming, and it's one of those games that it might be. Is it the biggest game we've had this year? At this point, it probably is.
Yeah,
it's the game of the year to this point.
Yeah, and you could make the case that there's a chance, maybe a good chance, that the eventual state champion is coming out of this matchup. It did last year.
It did last year.
And this is a rematch of a really good game and a Jim Ned upset last year that you attended. This game would not be an upset either way. I think these are two very evenly matched football teams, and whoever wins and whoever loses, it's not going to be a deal where either team should be terribly disappointed. These are just two extremely good football teams meeting up in the third round of the playoffs. So whoever wins this one, I think, has a chance to win a state championship, and whoever loses it, I think, will look back and say, and had we gotten through that one, I think we could have won a state championship. So this is a huge matchup. And like you said, one that that's been on our radar for a long time. I think it's been on everyone's radar basically since that matchup last year. They kind of spurred Jim Ned to its first state championship. So a huge game at Brownwood's Gordon Woods Stadium. And I'd imagine this one will be another one of those with lots of eyeballs on it this week.
And two of those eyeballs will be mine. I'm going to be there for that one. That's one I do not want to miss. I will be on hand in Brownwood for that ball game. All right, now we're going to jump up to Class 4A. We're going to stay in Region 1. This is Class 4A, Division 2, the regional semis. We've got the Snyder Tigers, Dan. And how about those Snyder Tigers? Still alive, coming off a 14-3 win over Graham last week in the area round. We had to say goodbye to Sweetwater, who fell to Aubrey 42-7. But Snyder's still there. They're still alive. And they get a very tall order in Salina. That's going to be 2 p.m. Friday at Mineral Wells. And I still like the Snyder Ball Club. They play well defensively. They run the ball. Of course, I like teams like that anyway. I was sentimental. Yeah. That's a sentimental thing for me.
Yeah, but I mean, they're doing a lot of things well right now, and obviously they've got a big, tough matchup against 10-1 Salina this week, 2 p.m. Friday at Mineral Wells. But I think you've got to be really impressed with what Coach Westwood's team has done really all year long, but particularly in the playoffs where they shut out Seminole. And then followed that up with the 14-3 win over Graham. They've allowed 3 points through their 2 playoff wins. And I think the impressive thing about this Snyder team is kind of like Brady. They had a little dip right there at the beginning of district season, the beginning of their district season, where they lost a couple of games and they were able to recover from that to finish district season strong. And then now they brought some momentum into the playoffs, and they're playing really well. So obviously Salina is a different beast. We've seen some of our teams, particularly Sweetwater, has run into them a time or two in the past, and they've kind of been the end of the road for some of these playoff runs. But the way Snyder's playing defense, it's going to be a challenge for anybody to score on them. So we'll see if they're able to maybe slow Salina down a little bit and then find enough offense to keep that game competitive into the fourth quarter. But regardless what happens from here on out, I think the fact that Snyder is 9-3 in the third round for the first time in a very long time is a really big step for that program and what Coach Wood's building out there.
All right, now we're going to jump up to Class 4A Division I, and we're going to talk more about this ball game with Coach Doty, who's going to be joining us here in a moment. We have Stephenville at 12-0 against Argyle, 11-1, 7 p.m. Friday at Mansfield Vernon Newsom Stadium, which is really a spectacular venue, and you will be on hand for that one, Dan.
Yeah, this is another one of those games. It's just a huge matchup. This is one that Stephenville's seen a lot in recent years, and they hadn't necessarily gone the Yellow Jackets' way. I think the one big difference this year, in my opinion, of course, I think that Stephenville actually would be maybe a slight favorite in this game for the first time, whereas in the past they've entered this matchup as underdogs. So I'm excited about this matchup. Argyle's obviously very, very good. They have not lost since falling to number one Melissa earlier in the season, but and they've kind of figured some things out offensively. But I like the Stephenville team. I like the way they're playing. I'm eager to see if this will be the year that they can kind of get over that Argyle hump. I think that this Stephenville team is built a little differently. I really like the way they're playing defense, and then offensively they're still as explosive as ever. But they are playing an opponent that is accustomed to being in these situations and is accustomed to having success in these situations. So Stephenville will have to put them away. They're not going. Argyle's not going to quit. They're not going to go away if they fall behind early. This is going to be a 4-quarter battle that Stephenville's going to have to find a way to win. But I'm eager to watch that game, and I'm eager to see if they can do it.
All right, before we bring on Coach Doty, we need to thank our sponsors. First and foremost, Capital Farm Credit, who brings you these Wednesday night podcasts throughout the school year. Also, for the love of the game broadcasting, and our old friend Terry Slavens, owner of K-Lakes 93.5 FM out of Breckenridge, 97.7 FM KATX out of Eastland, Classic Country AM 1330 out of Graham, 94.7 FM KWKQ out of Graham, KROO 1430 AM out of Breck, and KWBY 98.5 FM out of Ranger. That is for the love of the game broadcasting. Also, Rob Durham, sales consultant at Bayer Chevrolet Buick Cadillac up in Breckenridge. One of the nicest guys you'll ever want to meet. If you're in the market for a vehicle, new or used, give him a shout at 254-559-2266. That's Rob Durham up at Bayer Chevrolet Buick Cadillac in Breckenridge. And finally, Phil Hill of the Abilene Realtors Group, big supporter of local athletics. If you're in the market, give him a shout at 325-669-5153 or visit his website at philhillproperties.com. And with that, Dan, it is time to bring on the man, Coach Sterling Doty of Stephenville. This is a Stephenville ball club that has plenty of offensive punch, which we are accustomed to seeing out of Stephenville teams. Lambert's having a great year at quarterback. He's got all kinds of weapons to throw to. They're fun to watch offensively. However, this is the best defensive team that I've seen Stephenville produce ever, really. This is, if you're going to talk about a better defensive team out of Stephenville, you have to go back probably into the 1990s. It goes way back. They're playing really well defensively.
Yeah, playing extremely well. And I think it's worth noting that they have not played a game within the closest game they've played has been 2 scores all year long. So they have really found a way to get some separation and kind of keep it. So I'm interested to see, obviously, as your level of competition ramps up, if you're still able to do that against an Argyle. But again, when you talk about Stephenville, when you look at who they've played, La Vega, Midlothian Heritage, these are the types of teams you'd expect to face in the third round of the playoffs, and they were able to handle them. So this is going to be a big test for them. I think part of it's going to be as much psychological as anything, just because you've played this team and lost them the last couple of times in the playoffs. But if they come out and play their A game, I think there's a very good chance Stephenville is playing again next week, and I'm excited to see if they can do that. And I'm also excited to talk to Coach Doty about this bunch and about the season they're having, and it looks like he's about ready to join us.
And joining us now, Stephenville head football coach Sterling Doty. Coach, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for having me.
Coach, tell us about heading into the third round of the playoffs and what the keys have been for all this success that you've had.
Well, I just always go back to our leadership. We've got some great seniors that care a lot about their teammates and care a lot about our football team. And they've been putting in the work. Go back to off season, you go back to summer workouts, and our team's just really got grown through all those everything that comes with with what you're able to build there in off season. So we've just got a team that loves playing the game and loves playing it for each other. And you got Reese Young, you got Coy Aiken, Gavin Sharp, Corbin Poston. Those are our 4 senior captains, and they've just been leading our team the whole year.
Coach, y'all are coming off a big 22-10 win over Paris, a game where y'all were tested a little bit in that first half, and y'all were able to pass that, obviously. So just how pleased were you with what you saw in that game, just in terms of kind of, facing some early adversity and pulling away later, and just talk about kind of, is that something you thought was maybe important as y'all kind of move forward in the playoffs?
Paris has got a really good football team, and all of their games, they've started fast. You go back and you look at their scores, and basically every game except the Melissa game. It was real close at halftime. Matter of fact, they were up on Argyle 17-14 going into the half. And so we knew they were a talented ball club and coming out of a really, really deep district. And so we knew that we're going to have to go out there and play a really good game. And boy, I tell you what, our defense did a phenomenal job all night. They averaged 330 yards on the ground. We held them to just right around 140. I think their total yardage was around 160. So just a great effort by our defensive front 7. And then with kind of their spread wing tee offense that they run, you got to have 11 tacklers on the field. And so, our secondary did a good job of fitting their gaps, and we did a good job of getting them down. And then offensively, you can't turn the ball over inside the red zone. We had 2 turnovers there going in about the 4-yard line. Both turnovers were, and so we can't do that. And then we had to settle in the red zone for 3 field goals. But it had a lot to do with what Paris was doing. Like I said, they're a good ball club that's coached well. They went to the regional finals last year against Argyle, so they had a lot of good senior experience coming back. So it was just great, just win. Al Davis, just find a way to get the W and get the gold football and continue to progress and get better as a football team.
Coach, tell us about this Argyle ball club. Tell us about the matchup and the keys for you guys.
Last 2 years we ran into them, and Coach Rogers and their bunch, obviously, they're the defending state champions. We've been able to win it last year and represented Region 2 very well in that state title game. And so you just got a strong tradition of excellence. Their kids believe since they stepped foot into their junior high feeder system, they believe they got an opportunity to be state champions and have special things going on for them. So well coached, disciplined, very well schemed. Their spread offensive attack is one of the fastest that we'll line up against in terms of just how fast they're able to get the play in and the kids execute the play that's called there offensively. Their offense has really taken off since Jet Copeland moved over from being a secondary player. He was listed as a DB and as a wide receiver. When Jet Copeland took over at quarterback position, you really see their offensive numbers climb. And they're a ball club that's always, really good up front. They've got good offensive and defensive lines. And so, it's going to be important for us to be able to win the line of scrimmage on Friday night.
And you mentioned Region 2, and obviously we saw this in your district, just a brutal district, brutal region. where every game is tough. I guess, how much did playing in the district y'all play and prepare you for this region in the playoffs? And just talk a little bit about that region in general and just some of the challenges you do face when you step into the postseason.
When you combine all four of our districts there, you've really got some really good football teams. When you throw in Argyle, Melissa, Paris, Kaufman had a great year. Then you look at our district and you've got, Waco, La Vega, Midlothian Heritage, and with Brownwood getting in, and Kennedale winning their district is always a strong program that's made plenty of runs to the state title games and even winning it. So you just got very heavy tradition-based high schools that expect to win. They got some great coaches, and so it's really high-end football coming in there in Region 2 and in the region of Doom there. But like you mentioned, our non-district schedule got us prepared for it. Playing the Waco Conleys, the Salados, the Sweetwater. They all got us prepared for what we're going to see going into our district schedule. And then, of course, we were able to build a lot of the momentum from that early Waco La Vega win. And then you come back and we're on the road at Midlothian Heritage and ran into our first real adversity of the year, being down 14-0 there early in the second quarter and having to battle back. We get it 14-7 at half, and then our defense just carried us all game, and offensively we're able to do enough, but we had two big defensive touchdowns in that game. That was really the difference for our team to go out and win the outright district championship. So we're battle tested, and at this point of the year, I think you can say that about every ball club that's left standing. That old saying, there's no turkeys left after Thanksgiving, and that's definitely true in Texas high school playoffs.
Coach, on the subject of tradition, Stephenville has a rich tradition of coming up with one quality quarterback after another. It's unbelievable. And here we go again with Lambert. How do you guys do it?
Well, I tell you what, we're extremely blessed. That's for sure. That have young men that were able to follow in the footsteps and dream of being the starting quarterback at Stephenville, and they work extremely hard. Definitely, they're talented, but you always go back to their work ethic and their desire to be great. You go back to the early '90s, back with the greats that we had come through here. Brandon Stewart, Glenn Odell, into the late '90s, and then you go in the 2000s. And so, like you said, every step of the way, when Stephenville's, had state championship caliber teams, they usually got a great signal caller, and so Ryder's been no different for us. He had a lot of question marks coming in this season. It seems like everybody wants to talk about when we don't have a returning starter at quarterback. Everybody wants to know, who's the guy. Well, we had a great competition between him and Coy. They pushed each other. Ultimately, Ryder won out, and now Coy's going on to put up numbers and be an all-state receiver with the type of year that he's having. So, I think competition made both of those kiddos better, and they're big-time players for us now.
And on the topic of Coy, I mean, he's one of several big-time weapons that Ryder has at his disposal. You talk about Reese on the other side, a really good line that's blocked well, a couple of good backs. I mean, just how blessed has he been to have some of the weapons around him he's had that have kind of allowed him to do some of the things he's done?
Yeah, that's right. I think if you talk to any quarterback, they're going to start with the guys up front, and a quarterback's best friend has to be a running game. And, we definitely have the ability with our two-back system. I think both of them are close to 800 yards now. And, Ryder's pushing over 500 yards himself. So kind of got a three-headed monster there with our rushing attack. And then, man, I tell you what, we talked a lot about Coy, but boy, Reese is he's as consistent as the day is long. And he runs great routes, has great hands. Has great work ethic as well. He's just that type of kid that loves to rise to the occasion. And we saw that last year in the baseball playoffs, where he pitched in some really big ball games. And, we're firm believers in iron sharpens iron, and we want our kids competing year round for that very reason of, and though you can't buy those moments, you can't get them anywhere else. And it's just, he's turned himself into, a great player for us there his senior year.
Coach, I got a confession to make. I've never been a huge fan of the high tech spread offense teams that just outscore people. I've never been a fan of that. I'm an old school guy. I like the ground attacks. I like teams with great defense. I got a confession to make, and I'll let you just go ahead and comment. I think it's refreshing to see the type of defense that Stephenville is playing this year. I don't recall a better defensive team at Stephenville. You can win, you can outscore people, but you can win at the field position game and win defensively now too. It's refreshing to see.
I tell you what, and we've really invested in our defense. Coming out of last year's football team, we had some, really we had 6 offensive linemen coming back. When you throw in our fullback that ended up starting the last 4 games. He was a freshman, a big kid, Crease Brister. He's now our starting right tackle. So really we had 6 kids that had played a lot of football up front for us. And so we took 2 first teamers and slid them over there to our defensive line on top of our starting tight end last year, Jackson Barkley. So we invested a lot in our defensive front because we knew if you can control the line of scrimmage with what we had coming back at linebacker with Reese Young, we felt really good about our ability to stop teams and take away what they want to do, which is a majority of teams you're going to play in high school. If you can take away their running game, you've got a great opportunity to be successful. And it's the best defense that I have ever been able to be a part of in my 15 seasons of being a coach. And this is my 8th as a head coach, and it's definitely our best. And, I just attribute it to our defensive staff, and then I attribute it to our guys having a relentless pursuit every day of they just get after it. They're just consistent. They show up, they're ready to work, and they have fun doing it. They're smiling, giggling, laughing, all the while, knocking each other around on the practice field. And that's just set up for our group to have a lot of fun and really get back to the championship teams that you've seen at Stephenville. You go back to the big ball games, 38-21 against South Lake Carroll in 98. You go back to the early 93, 94 teams. I mean, those are close ball games. Stephenville's been down at the half, and they've won it on defense. And so it's true. Offense may win you football games and everybody gets excited about the big plays, but defense, they're going to win you the championship there at the end.
No, Coach Evan mentioned tradition, and that's something that your program obviously is blessed with a lot of. This you were going back down to the early 90s, talking about teams that were competing for championships, and you can really go decade by decade and kind of look at those types of teams. How much does that past success maybe have an influence on the young players that come up through your program, kind of expecting to be the next in line?
Oh, I think it's extremely important. I think it's a great blessing for us to be able to have, those 5 championship trophies inside our green room. And so every day when our kids go to the locker room, they look up there and they see them, and that's the standard around here. And they see we have their pictures blown up, the team pictures blown up, and they're up on the wall. And so they know that is a reality, that it can be accomplished and it can be done because of, the 5 groups that have gone on before them. And, not only that team, but we've had some great 2005 comes to mind, losing in the state championship to Matt Stafford and Highland Park. The next week, Highland Park beats Marshall, I think, by 77-7. And, that was a 1-possession game there in the semifinals. So just that consistency, and really it all boils down to, it all goes back to we've had some really talented kids. We've had some phenomenal coaches, but we've got a work ethic, and we've got an off-season program that we believe in, and we believe that we build champions through our off-season program.
Coach, can you talk about the the pressure to succeed at Stephenville. It's as high there as it is really in any program in the state. I don't think that a coach can really survive at Stephenville unless you enjoy and want the pressure. Is that true?
I think so. It's definitely a high profile job, but again, to me, it all goes back to I've got a great staff. We've got great support with great administration. They're going to help us out any way that they can and bend over backwards to allow us to have a top notch program. And then we've got great hardworking kids, and nobody's going to put any more pressure on us than when we look in the mirror. And so we know the things that we're doing every day to go be successful. And if we're doing that on a daily basis and being consistent with that, I believe that the wins and losses and everything else is going to take care of itself.
And then last one, but we talked about just how many, successful coaches and successful players have come through that program and been a big part of that tradition that we talked about. Just have you heard from some of those guys, maybe past players, past coaches, that maybe sent you a word of encouragement as you've gotten into the playoffs and those sorts of things?
Sure. Yes, sir. It's a blessing to have Coach Copeland here in town, our longtime defensive coordinator. He was really the only man for the job when Coach Prowse left to go to Tech. He was really the only one that could take it over in that time. And so he spent 3 seasons here as the head coach, and of course came back and was an assistant on the 2012 team with Coach Gillespie taking over. And, so it's great having him just right down the road, able to come up to practices and see him weekly. And he's still involved with our 6th grade pre-athletics. So we talk quite a bit, Coach Copeland and I do. And then, Coach Gillespie, the defense coordinator at Tulsa, him and I have talked back and forth over text, and it's great, hearing from Coach Prowse and just the words of encouragement that he can bring me and our football team. And, Randy Clements, my offensive line coach here at Stephenville, and then he was, our offensive line coach when I played down at University of Houston with Coach Prowse. He was able to, him and his wife came to the game last week, so that was really neat to see him and see his wife Polly, and it meant a lot to my wife and I, because those two have influenced us greatly. So yeah, anytime you've got the tradition that we have and just the roots here, it's just, I think one day we'll fully be able to appreciate it. But it's just a neat deal.
Coach, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time, and we will be keeping an eye on you, obviously, and Big Country Preps will be on hand for your ball game against Argyle.
Awesome, guys. Thank y'all so much for all your coverage.
And that was Stephenville head football coach Sterling Doty. One of the fun guys in the area to work with. He's a great source. He's always fun to be around. He's always upbeat. And what a ball club he has put together this year.
Yeah, definitely. I would echo all of those sentiments. I think he's a really high energy guy that's really, continued. I won't say he brought that to Stephenville, because Stephenville's always kind of been a high energy program, but he has continued that trend. And really, like we talked about with what they've done defensively this year, I think he may have maybe found a little bit of a new formula. I'm really excited, like I said, to see what this team can do the rest of the way. And it was really fun talking to Coach Doty about this group, because this is one that you and I have been talking about a whole lot this year. Really it played at a high level from the jump and is continuing that through the playoffs. So it's cool to see that enthusiasm surrounding this program and to hear that in Coach Doty's voice.
And with that, it's just about time to wrap up the Capital Farm Credit Wednesday night podcast. But before we do that, we want to remind you that we have 3 separate subscription packages here at bigcountrypreps.com. We've got a monthly for $5 a month. We've got a semi-annual 6-month subscription where we knock the price down to $4 a month. And we've got an annual 12-month subscription where we knock the price down to $3 a month, $36 for a full year of Big Country high school athletic coverage.
We'd also like to remind you that if you ever see a photo you like in any one of our galleries, it is available for purchase. We have digital downloads available for $7, and we also have some prints and keepsakes you can check out. So make sure you do that. Check those out. As we're at these games, we take a whole lot of photos. That's something we really enjoy doing and something we take a lot of pride in here at bigcountrypreps.com.
All Big Country, all high school, all the time. Welcome home.